You are not as busy as you think. You are just disorganized. One of the things that I picked up in large companies, and if you work for a large company, you might recognize this. Lots of people saying how busy they are. Oh, things are so hectic. You're running up and down, not quite sure always what you're doing. And when you observe your colleagues, they also seem to be busier than yourself. And sometimes I think we wonder to ourselves, am I not doing enough? I feel like I need to be doing more, being busy with more, being occupied with more, taking on new tasks, new activities. We eat on the run, eat lunch at our desks. And what does this all mean? Why are we so busy? Why are people always so intent on being seen to be busy? I want you to think about this with me for a second. Are you as busy as you think you are? I was listening to Miles Monroe this morning, and he shared 3 things that I think are really applicable to this idea of being busy. So busy, in fact, that we can't even stop to think about what it is that we're doing. We're not planning ahead. We're just attending to the next crisis and the next crisis after that, fighting fires left, right, and center. So Miles Monroe says that there are 3 things that you've got to get right in life if you want to succeed, if you want to progress, if you want to achieve the goals that you are after. He says, number 1, you've got to prioritize. Number 2, you've got to order things properly. And number 3, you've got to then be disciplined. And so from what I've seen and from what I've experienced as well, from colleagues, from myself, is that when we are in a state of being so busy and being super busy, especially in the workplace, and of course that trickles into our personal lives when weekends become a day and a half where you're pushing another deadline, night after night you're working to complete reports or tasks or whatever the case is. It just seems like there's not enough time. I want to offer you these 3 things because I think they really encapsulate and highlight some of the learnings that I've learned, but he just says it so much better than I. So first thing is, when you are not setting priorities right, when your priorities are not right to you, you have not sat and thought about what your priorities are. What is going to happen most likely is that other things are going to set the priorities for you. So if you think, for example, on any average day, there are lots of demands on your time. You get to work in the morning, you of course open up emails after your coffee or whatever it is that you do, and your routine might be. And by the time you get to 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, it's almost as if things have just filled up your time. Sometimes even the thing that you had planned to do gets pushed out later in the day, later in the week, later in the month. It's because your priorities are not clear to you. What is important for you? And this of course starts with the big questions of life about where do you want your career to go, what kind of person you want to be, where do you want to end up in 10, 20 years time by the time you retire. These are questions that we often don't think about because, as I said, we're just trying to pay the next bill, keep kids alive, report back to the boss, build a career, whatever it is that is the thing that occupies you, scrolling on social media, whatever the case may be. The point is that many of us are not clear about what it is that are the important things in our lives. And I think once we are able to think and articulate those things, what's really important to me, what's important in the long run. And I'm saying this also very carefully because I know that many of us are employed or we are submitted to bosses and to companies, whatever the case, and managers. The point is that still it does not excuse us from being clear about what we want, even in an employment relationship. And it's not just one way. It's not like you don't have choices. Sometimes those choices or the alternatives don't feel like choices, but the fact remains we always have a choice. We always have a choice to accept something or not to accept something. And of course, we've got to deal with the consequences of those things as well, those choices we have. But we don't get the choice not to choose. That's another sort of side point. And maybe I'll do another talk on this, on the 3 choices that we all get in life. And we never not have a choice. Difficult as sometimes those choices may be, but we never not have choices. So in terms of your priorities, if you're not clear about your own priorities and about what are the important things that you want, what you want to achieve, then somebody else is going to set that priority for you. And most likely it could be somebody who's in a position of authority or strong influence in your life. Those are the people who are likely to then set the priorities for you, because as I said, you are not clear yourself. Circumstances are also then going to set your priorities. And the thing is that sometimes we get confused about things that are important and things that are urgent. Sometimes we get confused about things that are important and things that are urgent. Those are not the same thing. Things that are important by implication are important. Things that are urgent are not always important, and important things are not always urgent. So if I may make an example, if you are a driver or you've driven, you have a car. When your petrol light comes on, that is an important thing about your car. Of course, you've got to, in the next little while, stop and fill up your tank. Otherwise, of course, you might be stranded and run out of petrol. Well, you got to run out of the petrol first and then be stranded. But the point is, that's an important note or action that you've got to take, but it's not super urgent. It doesn't need to be done right this very minute. And if you're anything like me, you tend to live a little bit on the risk and like, I can push it a little bit. But some of us, I know, we get to 3/4 or a quarter of a tank and then it's already panic. But that's not an urgent thing right now. But if one of the other lights on your car come on, let's say, for example, that one that looks like an engine part, it's, your oil light or water light or something comes on. Now that is also a very important occasion, but now it is urgent, because if you don't do something about it immediately, of course, there's going to be much bigger consequences to your car. You might seize your engine or blow something else. That's going to cost you a lot of money to fix. So urgent and important are very different things. And so in setting your priorities as well, you've got to know what are the important things, what are the urgent things. These things, as I say, these two things are not always the same. And we tend to mix them up because we are not thinking about these things or the tasks or responsibilities that we have in order to determine, is it important, is it urgent? It might be one or the other, it might be both. The things that are important and the things that are urgent, those are the ones that need to be done immediately. So if I could make another example, we know that health, eating well, exercising, enough sleep is a really, really important part of being mentally well, psychologically, physically healthy. But we tend to neglect those things because there are reports, there's the bosses that are demanding, there are a whole bunch of things that are screaming for attention all at the same time. And then we push what is important because we think we've got time, we push it aside and end up just dealing with the things that are urgent on a day-to-day basis. We are fighting fires day in, day out, and we just end up not having the time to actually just pause, think about what we're doing, and perhaps come up with new solutions to our problems. So prioritizing is really, really, really important.